Hey guys, it's Wednesday, September 1st, 2010. I'm John Balicki, and this video is about what I have been doing on my website, and because I know a lot of you are like, when's he going to get everything done? When's he going to get everything done? And you guys are looking to me for answers. Stay out of college, learn on your own. Trust me, you can learn this stuff on your own, and don't put yourself into like $30,000, $40,000 worth of debt. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about on-demand, caching, security, maybe logs. So, let's begin, shall we? And no, there's not going to be any hardware gaming, any of that in this video, but I will be getting to that as I get my site done and change my focus. Anyway, so on-demand scripting. On-demand scripting is awesome. And one of the things I have always considered is that a lot of people are still on dial-up. And I know some people think like if you're not in America, you have no broadband. In fact, actually, quite a lot of nations are ahead of us in broadband. But anyway, so on-demand scripting. So my JavaScript file, an example, was 34 kilobytes after compression. I was thinking, how can I knock that down significantly? Because it's already compressed. Now, I could minify it, but I work on it, and I'm always going to be working on it, and I'm always going to be optimizing it and changing things and whatnot. So I'm not really all that interested in maintaining like a separate minified version of it. But there are other things that you can do. Now, I do recommend minifying things if you're not going to be changing them very often. 'Cause I do change things very often. And on-demand scripting is great. So I brought that 34 kilobyte script and knocked it down to 16 kilobytes, actually under 16 kilobytes. And basically, I'll give you an example. Not everyone in the world is going to use all the optional features on my site. The site editor that lets you change the entire way that my site looks, which is actually on there. So if you go to my site right now, jobcreations.com, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like the way your site looks. Go to the site editor, top right hand corner, click on it, and you can change the entire way the site looks. I'm not joking. The background color, the background image, the border color, and the text color. So anyway, but that feature might take up 2 to 4 kilobytes. And then there's a benchmark that I have in the new version of my site. There's the new chat room. There's the power keys. There's the feature that customizes the checkboxes, that replaces the crappy versions in the browsers because you still can't customize them, and replaces them with a graphic image, etc. All that adds up, and so I was able to take a 34 kilobyte JavaScript file and knock it down to under 16 kilobytes. So that was just optional stuff alone. And that basically, I attempted to use Ajax for that, and it just was not working, and I was not interested in trying to treat all the functions in the optional scripting as an object instead of functions and all that jazz. So basically what I did was I created a script element and inserted it into the DOM. I do not use inner HTML. I do not use document write. I do everything pure DOM, the way you're supposed to do it. Alright, and I don't care if anyone says inner HTML has been added to the DOM, been added to some standard. It does not work. It does not work in older browsers, and it is not reliable. So anyway, so I add the script element, and then you have to poll for the function. And I don't like using eval, but in this case, it's worth using because really there's nothing else to use, and it's not allowing user input really. And you basically poll the feature. I poll about once every five times every second, and if it doesn't find it after about 10 seconds or the number of attempts, then it just says the function was not able to load. But even on dial-up, I think most people with a 36K modem, which divided bits to bytes translates into 4,500 bytes a second, should be able to download a 3 or 4 kilobyte optional on-demand scripting feature, and then it executes that function once it determines that the type of function, and then of course the function name is now a function using eval. Internet Explorer was not cooperative, but I forced it to obey. So anyway, it is an awesome feature, and it is actually pretty easy to implement once you know how. And if you guys want to know how to use that, I suggest going over to Webmaster World and checking out the JavaScript forums. It is still a pretty fresh thread on there. And yes, Job Creations is my username on there. Alright, so caching. Caching. I now cache everything except for the blog and the forum. Why not the blog and the forum? Because they're so dynamic, and I can do absolute utter perfection down the road, but I want to get the things that count first and foremost. Script files and style sheets that load on every single page. Once you request them the first time, they will not be requested for 2 hours, and when you do request them, you'll get a HTTP 304. So for about 2 hours, they will continuously load directly from your hard drive. So that's another HTTP request that is not made to the server. The fewer HTTP requests you make, the faster the page will load. And so that's a 16 kilobyte JavaScript file that will no longer load from my website. It will load directly from the your hard drive. And I think the style sheet is 9 kilobytes offhand. Some people might say, why is it 9 kilobytes for style sheet? Because I am doing a platform, not a website. And you guys will, I'll go into Web 3.0, and no, it is not hype. It is actual code. And trust me, I am doing some pretty insane things down the road and right now, but I will only allude to it. So caching is basically on a 36K modem right now, paying attention to Fiddler. The initial page load used to be 16 kilobytes. It is now 8. That is, you have absolutely nothing from my site in your cache, and you're basically 8 seconds on a dial-up. Now, you might throw in a second or two for HTTP request, but that's still about 10 seconds for a dial-up user to have the page load in full. The on-demand scripting and the features mixed with the caching will basically see about 1 to 3 seconds load time on a dial-up modem between loading an optional feature with on-demand scripting, the templates, the XML templates that are loaded for certain features that are optional, and just going from page to page, including even on the blog and the forums, because even if they are not loaded from the cache, they are still compressed, etc. So basically, the site is fast on dial-up, and you can actually sit there for like only 2 or 3 seconds waiting, and it'll be usable. On broadband, it's just stupid fast. Security. I am now no longer allowing unlimited authentication attempts. That is a huge security vulnerability, because if you continue to allow a hacker to make guesses at an account's password, unlimited, then that allows them to, one, pound your server away with request, which is never a good thing, and two, just allowing them to endlessly guess the password means that they're going to have a lot greater chance to guess the password, whereas if you limit the number of attempts per hour to something like, say, 4 or 5 attempts an hour. And now, instead of having, let's say, hundreds of thousands of attempts a day, they're now able to do, let's say, if you do 24 times 5, 120 attempts a day is a lot less likely that they're going to make a successful attempt to guess the password. And also, from a server-side perspective, forcing a user to use an exclamation point, an ampersand, a pound sign, dollar sign, percentage, carrots, ampersand, stars, parentheses, any non-alphanumeric character, and force them to use that at least once in their password will greatly increase the complexity of their password. The greater the length of the password will also increase the complexity of the password. And if you go and you do some research, I think it's like from 8 to 9 characters, and just like a 1 character jump at that point will increase the computational processing of guessing a password from like a week to a month, from a month to a year, and like literally a year to 10 years, 10 years to 200 years, etc. So there's a lot of that. Go ahead and do your research on passwords. It's really easy if you actually make the effort. I think that's about my limit on the video, so I just want to give you guys a heads up on what I've been working on. I think it is the beginning of September. I might be able to get to a beta by the end of September, and if not, sometime in October. But it's not done until it's done. And when I do have beta, it will not be content-based. It'll be, you guys can run around the forums and the blog and check out some of the content that I do have finished. But basically, when I reach beta, it will be done structure, security-wise, and we're going to be talking a lot more in the forums and talking especially more on hardware and stuff like that. So, and starting some tutorials and whatnot. And you'll be able to get a sneak peek at the code that I'm using, at least JavaScript-wise. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys around.